Commander Lisa Monroe stood at the back of the large classroom. She did not move. She did not speak. Her uniform was clean and pressed, and her face showed nothing. Beside her stood Lieutenant Kevin Price. He was also very still. But Lisa could see the muscles in his jaw tighten. The room was shaped like a bowl, with seats going up in circles around a central stage. 300 young Velthari sat in those seats. They were tall creatures with shiny scales that changed colors in the light. Each one had 4 arms and eyes that looked like broken glass, with many small pieces that all moved separately. On the stage stood the teacher. His name was Instructor Kethrel, and he was pointing at a large picture made of light. The picture showed a human body floating and turning slowly so everyone could see it from all sides. The human species, Kethrel said in a loud, clear voice, is one of the younger races to travel among the stars. Today we will study their bodies and learn where they are weak. This knowledge will help you in battle. Lisa felt Kevin move slightly next to her. She put her hand on his arm without looking at him. The touch said one word. Wait. The humans had been invited to this military school as guests. 6 months ago, humans and Velthari had signed a treaty. They had agreed to work together and protect each other. Visiting the school was supposed to be friendly. Nobody had told Lisa that she would watch aliens teach other aliens how to kill her people. Look here, Kethrel said. He made the picture bigger, showing the chest area. The human heart sits a little to the left side, inside the chest. If you put a blade here, here, or here, the human will bleed very fast. They will die in 2 to 4 minutes. The young Velthari students wrote notes on their small computers. Some of them whispered to their friends. Lisa kept breathing slowly and evenly. She had been a commander for 12 years. She had fought pirates. She had survived battles where half her crew was hurt. She could handle watching a science lesson about her own body. The human head, Kethrel continued. Turning the picture is very easy to break. Much easier than ours. A strong hit will crack it open. You do not need much force. Our heads are much stronger. Kevin's hand moved toward his weapon before he stopped himself. Lisa gave him a sharp look. Not now. Not yet. Also, the teacher went on, humans must breathe air all the time. They cannot hold their breath for long. If you stop their air for 3 or 4 minutes, they will die. You can also use poison in the air. Many common poisons will kill them quickly.
Oh.
One of the students raised one of his 4 arms. Teacher, can humans fight back? Do they have any natural weapons? Kethrel made a clicking sound with his mouth parts. It sounded like he was laughing. Almost none. They have no armor on their skin. They have no poison. They cannot grow back parts that are cut off. They are slow compared to us. Their eyes can only see a small amount of light. They cannot see heat or electricity like we can. The teacher paused and looked at his students with what seemed like pride.
In a fair fight.
One Velthari soldier should be able to kill 3 or 4 humans without much trouble. The students sat up straighter. They looked pleased with themselves, even though they had never fought anyone. Now, Kethrel announced, let us look at the best ways to kill humans. We will start with knives and swords, then move to guns and energy weapons. The lesson went on for almost an hour. Lisa and Kevin stood without moving, watching everything, remembering every word. When Kethrel finally told the students they could leave, the young Velthari walked out talking and laughing. They did not look at the 2 humans standing in the back, when the room was empty. Kethrel walked over to Lisa and Kevin. His scales shifted to a lighter color, which Lisa had learned meant he was trying to be friendly. Commander Monroe, Lieutenant Price, he said, I hope you found my lesson interesting. We believe allies should know everything about how we teach our soldiers. Lisa made herself smile. It was not a real smile, but it looked like one. Very interesting, instructor. I was wondering something. Would it be possible for us to speak to your students? We would like to add some information about how humans fight. Kethrel's scales changed color in surprise. You want to teach my class? Think of it as sharing between friends, Kevin said. His voice was calm and controlled. If we are going to be allies, your students should understand humans completely, not just how our bodies work. The teacher thought about this. His scales kept shifting as he considered the idea. Finally, he clicked his mouthparts in agreement. It's very well. Tomorrow's class starts at the 3rd hour. I will tell my students they will have guest teachers. Thank you, Lisa said. We will prepare something your students will remember for a long time. That night, Lisa and Kevin worked in their rooms at the Human Embassy building. They pulled files from secret military computers. They gathered pictures and videos. They built their lesson piece by piece. Around midnight, Ambassador George Martinez came to see them. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. I heard about what happened, he said, sitting down heavily in a chair. I already sent an official complaint to the Velthari government. Sir, I need you to take that complaint back, Lisa said. Martinez looked surprised. They taught a whole class how to murder humans. That is not how allies behave, which is exactly why we need to handle this ourselves, Kevin said. He was looking at a computer screen full of battle reports. If you complain, maybe they say sorry. Maybe that teacher gets in trouble, but nothing really changes. Those students will still think humans are easy to kill. They are not, Lisa added. The Velthari have never fought us. They have only read about us. Tomorrow, we are going to give them a real education. Martinez looked at both of them for a long moment. He had worked with military people for many years. He knew that look in their eyes. What exactly are you planning to do? Nothing that breaks any rules or laws, Lisa said. Just a history lesson. The ambassador sighed and stood up. I have known many soldiers in my life. I know when they have a plan, they will not change. Just please do not start a war, Ambassador Kevin said. We are going to stop one. After Martinez left, Lisa and Kevin worked until the sun came up. When they finally finished, Kevin leaned back and rubbed his tired eyes. Do you think this will work? Lisa looked at everything they had put together. The old battles, the death counts. The stories of what humans had done when pushed too far. The Velthari respect, strength, she said. They think we are weak because we look soft and die easily. Many races have made that mistake about humans. The last mistake many races ever made, Kevin added quietly. Exactly. Tomorrow, we correct that mistake. Tomorrow, those students learn what humans really are. She turned off the computer screen. In the darkness, her eyes were hard and bright. Tomorrow, we teach them to be afraid. The classroom was more crowded than the day before. Word had spread through the military school that the human visitors would be speaking. Students from other classes had come to watch. They filled every seat and stood along the walls. Their scales shimmered with colors of curiosity and amusement. Instructor Kethrel sat in the front row. His forearms were crossed over his chest, and his expression showed polite doubt. He did not expect much from the soft, weak creatures standing at the center stage. Lisa Monroe looked out at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. Kevin Price stood beside her, his hands clasped behind his back. The light picture machine waited for their command. Lisa took a deep breath and began to speak. Yesterday, Instructor Kethrel taught you many true things about human bodies. We are soft. We break easily. We die easily. One good hit in the right place, and we fall down dead. She paused and let those words hang in the air. What your teacher could not tell you, because he does not know, is what all that weakness has done to us. How it has shaped us. What it has made us become. Lisa touched a control, and the light picture machine turned on. It showed a world covered in green and blue. Earth, seen from far above. For 200,000 years, humans lived on this planet. It was always trying to kill us. We had no scales to protect us. We had no poison to fight with. We had no claws worth talking about. We were not the fastest animals. We were not the strongest animals. Every single day was a fight to stay alive against creatures that were better than us in every way. The picture changed to show ancient humans standing in tall grass. Around them in the shadows were large animals with teeth and claws. By all logic, we should have died out. We should have been eaten and forgotten. But we did not die. We survived. Lisa looked directly at Kethrel. We survived by learning to kill things much more dangerous than ourselves. Kevin stepped forward and took over speaking. Humans learned to hunt by following animals for days without stopping. We are not fast, but we do not give up. We developed weapons when we could not fight with our hands. We developed group tactics when we could not win alone. We developed tricks, lies, and the willingness to die if it meant our group would live. But the picture changed again, showing human history. Armies marching, cities burning, ships sailing to war. When we ran out of dangerous animals to fight, Kevin continued, we turned these skills on each other. For thousands of years, we practiced the art of killing. Every generation found new and better ways to destroy enemies. Lisa stepped forward again. You measured our heads and said they were weak. You counted our heartbeats and calculated how fast we could bleed to death, but you forgot to measure something else. The light picture showed a human soldier. His face was dirty and tired. His eyes were empty and hard. Behind him stood hundreds more soldiers just like him. Forgot to measure how much we are willing to suffer, how much we are willing to lose, how far we will go to win. The classroom was completely silent now. No one was writing notes anymore. Humans do not fight like other races, Lisa said. We do not count our losses and run away when the numbers turn against us. We do not give up when we are clearly going to lose. We have a saying on Earth, we do not go gentle into that good night. It means we fight until we cannot fight anymore, and then we fight some more. Kevin pulled up new pictures. These showed a small human colony on a rocky planet. Buildings burned. People ran through the streets. 3 years ago, a race called the HFY attacked a human colony. They had more soldiers. They had better weapons. They attacked without warning. They expected the colonists to give up. Pictures showed ordinary people picking up weapons. Farmers with guns. Shopkeepers with knives. Teenagers with homemade bombs. Colonists fought for 6 weeks. Men and women and children. They used anything they could find as weapons. They turned every building into a fortress. When the buildings fell down, they fought in the rubble. When they ran out of bullets, they fought with rocks and fists. Lisa's voice grew harder. When the human navy finally arrived, the HFY had won. They controlled the colony, but they had lost almost half of their invasion force. Trained soldiers, killed by farmers and shopkeepers. The HFY leaders were so shocked by how many soldiers they lost that they asked for peace before we could attack them. She let that information sink in. The HFY thought they were attacking simple, peaceful people. They were. But they forgot that every human, no matter what job they have, carries 200,000 years of survival inside them. A voice in their blood that says never give up, never stop fighting, make them pay for every step they take. Kevin changed the picture to show a comparison chart. Your teacher said one Velthri could kill 3 or 4 humans in a fair fight. He might be right if humans fought fair. But humans do not fight fair. We put poison in water. We collapse tunnels on enemy soldiers. We put bombs on dead bodies. We kill officers first. We attack food supplies and hospitals and communication towers. We do not fight enemies. We destroy them. The picture showed maps with arrows and explosions. Famous human battles where smaller forces destroyed larger ones. We invented something called total war, Lisa said. It means when humans go to war, everyone fights. Our factories make weapons day and night. Our scientists create new ways to kill. Our civilians become hidden fighters. Our children become spies and messengers. Every single person becomes a weapon. She looked at the students, who had stopped moving. Their scales had all turned the same pale color. Instructor Kethrel told you that humans are easy to kill. He was right. But he did not tell you what happens after you kill one of us. The picture changed to show burning cities, mass graves, and then armies rising from the destruction, larger than before. When you kill a human, their family swears to get revenge. Their friends demand justice. Their country prepares for war. Their entire race remembers. Humans do not forgive. Humans do not forget. We have fought wars over insults that happened 100 years before. We have hunted criminals across decades. We have built entire organizations just to make sure that anyone who hurts us will eventually be punished. Kevin stepped forward. You want to know how to kill a human? Fine. Shoot us. Stab us. poison us, blow us up. We will die. But before we die, we will make sure that killing us costs you far more than you can afford. And after we die, there will be more of us. Always more. We have babies quickly. We train constantly. We never, ever stop coming. Lisa pulled up one final image. A human soldier standing on top of rubble, a flag in one hand and a weapon in the other. Behind him, a ruined city. But also behind him, thousands more humans marching forward. The Velthari have traveled among the stars for 12,000 years. You have never lost a war. You have never been invaded. You have never faced the end of your race. Humans have faced all of those things many times, and we are still here. We survived not because we were strong. We survived because we refused to die. She turned off the light pictures. The room seemed darker now. You are our allies now. We are grateful for that. We hope we stay friends for a very long time. Lisa looked directly at Instructor Kethril. But if any of you ever find yourselves fighting against human soldiers, remember what we taught you today. Killing a human is the easy part. Surviving what comes after is very, very hard. The students walked out of the classroom without making a sound. There was no talking, no laughing, no comparing notes like the day before. Their scales had all turned a dull gray color that Lisa had learned meant shock or deep thought. Instructor. Kethril stayed in his seat. His forearms hung at his sides, and his many-part eyes were fixed on the two humans still standing at the center of the room. For a long time, nobody spoke. Finally, Kethril stood up. His old bones creaked as he walked down to where Lisa and Kevin waited. When he reached them, his scales slowly changed from gray to a deep blue. Lisa had studied Velthari colors for months. Blue meant respect, Commander Monroe, Kethril said quietly. That was not what I expected. What did you expect, Instructor? Kethril made a soft clicking sound with his mouth. I expected you to be angry, maybe insulted. I thought you would complain to your ambassador, and he would complain to our government. There would be apologies and official statements, the usual diplomatic dance. He paused, his scales shifting to an even deeper blue. I did not expect you to stand here and explain, in perfect detail, why killing your species would be the worst mistake anyone could ever make. Kevin allowed himself a small smile. We believe in complete education. Kethril was quiet again, thinking. I have taught at this school for 40 years. I have given lessons about how to fight 73 different species. Many times, members of those species visited our school. None of them ever came to my classroom to watch. And certainly none of them ever did what you did today. What did the other species do? Lisa asked. They complained. They sent angry messages to our government. Official apologies were written, and nothing changed. My students still learned what they needed to know about possible enemies. Kethril's scales rippled. But you did not complain. You waited. You watched. You listened to everything I taught. And then you made sure my students understood something much more important than where to stab a human. What is that? Kevin asked. That humans must never be treated as easy targets. Kethril moved his head in a slow nod. I have studied your species for many years, Commander. I knew the numbers. I knew the history. I had read about your wars and your weapons. But until today, I did not truly understand what all of that meant. He made a formal gesture, lowering his head and spreading all four of his arms wide. Among the Velthari, this was the highest sign of respect, usually saved for great warriors and wise leaders. I must say sorry to you. Not for my lesson, because everything I taught about human bodies was true and my students needed to know it. But I am sorry for what I believed underneath those facts. I believed that because humans were soft and easy to hurt, that meant humans were weak. I was wrong. Lisa returned the gesture as best she could with only 2 arms. We accept your apology, Instructor. And honestly, I do not think your lesson was bad to give. If our peoples ever do become enemies, your students should know how to fight us. But now they also know the price of that fight, Kethril said, which might stop it from ever starting. His mouth parts clicked in what Lisa now recognized as an embarrassed laugh. Very clever. Very, very clever. Try. Kevin said. The three of them walked toward the classroom door together. Outside, they found a small group of students waiting. Most of them looked nervous, their scales flickering between colors too fast to read. But one young female with pale green scales stepped forward. "My name is Cadet Valshira. May I ask you something?" "Of course." "The pictures you showed, the humans fighting on that colony, was that real? Did they truly fight like that? Against trained soldiers, when they had no chance of winning?" Lisa looked at the young cadet. She saw genuine confusion in those strange multi-part eyes. Valshira was not asking to be polite. She truly did not understand. "It was real," Lisa said. "Every moment of it. But why?" The young Velthari scales turned a frustrated orange. If they knew they could not win, why did they not give up? The Kethper would have kept them alive as prisoners. They would have survived. Kevin shook his head slowly. Would they? Or would they have lived as slaves, watching strangers take their world, seeing their children raised under enemy rule, watching everything they built be destroyed? For humans, that is not living. That is a death that just takes longer. Valshira thought about this. Her scales slowly shifted through several colors as she processed the idea. "Among my people," she finally said, "there is honor in recognizing when you cannot win and choosing to live rather than die for nothing. Your people do not think this way." "No," Lisa agreed. "We do not. Among humans, there is honor in fighting back, in making the enemy pay for every victory, in making sure that even if you fall with a weapon in your hand and an enemy's blood on your teeth." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I am not saying our way is better than yours. I am saying it is different. And any species that wants to fight humans needs to understand that difference before the first shot is fired." Valshira was quiet for a long moment. Her scales finally settled into the same deep blue as Kethrel. Then she made the formal respect gesture, bowing her head and spreading her forearms. "Thank you, Commander. I think I understand now why the alliance with humans was considered so important." "Tell me why you think that," Lisa said. Valshira's scales flickered with what might have been dark humor. "Because having humans as enemies would be very expensive. Having humans as friends means that expense gets paid by someone else instead." Lisa laughed out loud. The sound surprised even her. That might be the most accurate description of human thinking I have ever heard from anyone who is not human. The group of students dispersed slowly, talking quietly among themselves. Kethrel watched them go, his expression thoughtful. "They will tell others," he said. "By tonight, every student in this school will know what you taught today. By next week, every military academy in the Velthari territory will have heard the story." "Good," Kevin said. Kethrel turned to face the two humans. "May I ask you something, Commander? Something personal?" "Go ahead." "When you stood in my classroom yesterday and listened to me explain how to kill your people, what did you feel? Were you angry? Afraid? Insulted?" Lisa thought about the question for a moment before answering. "I felt all of those things. But mostly I felt sad." "Sad? Why?" "Because I knew that everything you were teaching was wrong. Not in the facts, but in the conclusion. You were teaching your students that humans were prey, easy targets. And I knew that if they ever believed that lie and acted on it, many of them would die." Lisa shook her head slowly. "They are young. They have their whole lives ahead of them. I did not want them to throw those lives away because nobody ever told them the truth." Kethrel's scales turned a color Lisa had never seen before. Later, she would learn it was the Velthari color for deep emotional pain mixed with gratitude. "You were not angry that we were teaching how to kill your kind. You were sad that our students might die believing the wrong thing." "Yes." The old instructor was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, more thoughtful. "I have lived for many years, Commander. I have met warriors from dozens of species. I thought I understood what made a species dangerous. I thought it was weapons or strength or numbers or technology." He looked at Lisa with new eyes. "I was wrong. What makes a species truly dangerous is the ability to care about enemies who are trying to learn how to kill you. That requires a kind of strength I did not know existed. Lisa did not know what to say to that. Cathrell made the respect gesture one more time. "Thank you for the lesson, Commander Monroe. I believe I learned more today than my students did." The months that followed the classroom incident changed everything. Word spread through the Velthari military faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, every soldier, every officer, every cadet had heard the story of the two human observers who had turned a lesson about weakness into a warning about strength. Lisa Monroe found herself invited to speak at other military schools. She traveled across Velthari space, standing in front of audiences that ranged from young cadets to grizzled veterans. The message was always the same. Humans are fragile, humans die easily, and humans will make you pay for every single death with interest. Kevin Price worked with Velthari tactical officers to develop joint training programs. He taught them about human battle strategies, the tricks and traps that had won wars against stronger enemies. In return, the Velthari shared their own methods, the precise, mathematical approaches that had kept their empires stable for 12,000 years. The two species learned from each other. The Velthari discovered that sometimes a willingness to accept casualties could win battles that careful planning could not. The humans learned that sometimes patience and precision were better than raw aggression. Ambassador Martinez watched these developments with growing amazement. His formal complaint had been quietly withdrawn, and the diplomatic situation had become better than anyone had hoped. "I have been a diplomat for 30 years, he told Lisa one evening, and I have never seen anything like this. We were supposed to be insulted. We were supposed to demand apologies and create distance. Instead, you turned an insult into an opportunity." Lisa shrugged. "The Velthari respect, strength. Complaining would have made us look weak. Showing them what we really are made them respect us. Sometimes the best diplomacy is not diplomatic at all." 6 months after the classroom incident, something happened that tested everything both species had learned. A distress signal came from the edge of Velthari space. A cargo ship carrying both human and Velthari crew had been attacked by raiders. The ship was badly damaged and drifting. The raiders were still in the area, circling like sharks, waiting for their prey to die. The closest help was a small Velthari patrol ship, commanded by a young officer named Velthera. She had been a student at the military academy when Lisa gave her lecture. Now she commanded a crew of 30 Velthari warriors. Her ship was not strong enough to fight the raiders directly. There were 3 enemy ships, all bigger and better armed than hers. The mathematical calculation was clear, engaging. The enemy would result in the destruction of her vessel and the death of her crew. 6 months ago, Velthera would have called for backup and waited. She would have watched the cargo ship die from a safe distance, calculating that the lives of her own crew were more important than the strangers on the damaged vessel. But she had sat in that classroom. She had listened to the human commander explain what it meant to fight without hope. She had heard about farmers and shopkeepers who chose death over surrender. Velthera looked at her crew. They looked back at her with their multi-part eyes, waiting for orders. "The humans have a saying," she told them. They say, "Never leave anyone behind." They say, "We do not count lives like coins." They say, "A friend in need is a friend indeed." Her scales turned to a deep, determined blue. Today, we learn what those words really mean. She ordered her ship forward, not to fight, because fighting would be suicide. Instead, she flew directly between the raiders and the cargo ship, blocking their attack runs with her own vessel. Every shot aimed at the cargo ship hit her patrol craft instead. The raiders were confused at first. This was not how Velthari fought. Velthari were careful, precise, calculating. They did not throw themselves into danger for strangers, but Velthora had learned from humans. She understood that sometimes being willing to die was more powerful than any weapon. Her ship absorbed hit after hit. Systems failed. Crew members were injured. The hull began to crack and bend under the assault. But still she held position, protecting the cargo ship while its crew worked desperately to repair their engines. The battle lasted 47 minutes. For 47 minutes, a single Velthari patrol ship absorbed the attacks of 3 raider vessels. By the end, Velthora's ship was barely holding together. 11 of her 30 crew members were dead. The rest were wounded. But the cargo ship's engines came back online. And at that exact moment, 3 human destroyers dropped out of hyperspace. The raiders did not run fast enough. 2 of their 3 ships were destroyed before they could escape. The third was captured and its crew taken prisoner. When the human captain boarded what was left of Velthora's ship, he found her still at her command station. Her scales were pale with exhaustion and pain. She had taken a piece of shrapnel in her side during the final minutes of the fight. Why? The human captain asked. His name was Paul Henderson, and he had served in the Navy for 20 years. He had never seen anything like what this young Velthori officer had done. Why did you do this? You could have waited for us. You could have stayed safe. Velthora's mouth parts clicked weakly. Despite her injury, she managed to smile in the way Velthori smiled. I was taught, she said slowly, that killing a human is easy. But I was also taught that what comes after is very hard. She coughed and some blood came up. The medics rushed to help her. I decided, she continued, her voice getting weaker, that saving humans must work the same way. Saving humans is easy. What comes after is the good part. She lost consciousness then. The medics took her away to surgery. The story spread even faster than the classroom story had. Within days, everyone in both human and Velthori space knew about the young officer who had protected a cargo ship by putting her own body in the line of fire. When Lisa Monroe heard the story, she cried for the first time in years. 11 Velthori had died protecting humans they had never met. A young officer had nearly given her life for strangers. This was not what she had intended when she gave her lecture. She had wanted to warn the Velthori to make them afraid of fighting humans. She had not expected them to learn a different lesson entirely. Velthora survived her injuries. She was promoted 3 ranks and given a medal that had not been awarded in 200 years, the highest Velthori honor for bravery. When she was well enough to speak, reporters asked her what she had been thinking during those 47 minutes of hell. I was thinking about what it means to be strong, she said. I used to think strength meant being able to destroy enemies. Now I understand that real strength is being willing to suffer for the people you care about. She looked directly at the camera, knowing that humans across the galaxy would see her words. Oh, the humans taught us that they will never stop fighting, never stop coming, never stop making their enemies pay. They are dangerous because they will not quit. Her scales turned the deep blue of respect. We learned that lesson. But we also learned something else. If humans will never quit against their enemies, then they will also never quit for their friends. And that makes having humans as allies more valuable than all the weapons in the galaxy. She paused. We used to think humans were weak because they die easily. Now we know the truth. Humans are strong because even knowing they will die, they fight anyway. And now we fight the same way. The interview was watched by billions. On human worlds and Velthori worlds, people saw the young officer with her healing wounds and her words of respect and friendship. Something had changed. Something important. The 2 species were no longer just allies on paper. They were becoming something more. Something that had never existed before in the long history of the galaxy. They were becoming family. 1 year after, Lisa Monroe stood in that classroom. The Alliance faced its greatest test, the Kethver hegemony. The same race that had attacked the human colony years before decided to expand their territory. They looked at the border between their space and the combined human-Velthori zone. They saw an opportunity. Their war council had debated for months. Some argued that attacking the Alliance was too dangerous. They remembered what had happened at the colony, how untrained humans had killed thousands of their soldiers. But others pointed out that the Alliance was new and untested. The 2 species had never fought together in a real war. If they struck fast and hard, they could break the Alliance before it had time to respond. The War Council voted for attack. 300 warships crossed the border in the largest military operation the hegemony had ever attempted. Lisa Monroe received the news on the bridge of the Terran warship Perseverance. She was a fleet commander now, in charge of 40 human vessels. Beside her, fleet floated 35 Velthori warships under Admiral Cuthrell, It's the older brother of the instructor who had started everything. The combined fleet was outnumbered almost 4-1. Standard military thinking said they should retreat, gather reinforcements, and fight when the odds were better. But this was not a standard military situation. Commander Monroe, Admiral Cathrell's voice came through the communication system. I've analyzed the enemy formation. If we engage now, our losses will be severe, perhaps total. The logical choice is to withdraw and wait for more ships. Lisa looked at the tactical display. 75 Allied ships against 300 enemy ships. The math was simple and brutal. Admiral, she said slowly, what lies behind us? 3 colony worlds. 2 human, 1 Velthari. Total population, approximately 12 million people. And if we withdraw? If we let the Kethver pass, Kethra was quiet for a moment. They will attack the colonies. Based on their previous behavior, civilian casualties would be ... extensive. Lisa nodded, even though he could not see her. Then we do not withdraw. Commander, that is not logical. We cannot win this battle. Maybe not. But we can hurt them. We can slow them down. We can buy time for those colonies to evacuate and for reinforcements to arrive. She heard Cathrell make a soft clicking sound. You are proposing we sacrifice ourselves. I am proposing we fight. What happens after that is not up to us. There was silence on the channel. Lisa could imagine the old admiral thinking, his scales shifting through colors as he processed this very human approach to warfare. 1 year ago, Cathrell finally said, my brother told me about 2 human officers who sat in his classroom and listened to him explain how to kill their species. He said they did not get angry or run away. They waited. They Arned. And then they taught his students a lesson that changed everything. I remember, my brother said the most important thing he learned was that humans do not measure victory the same way other species do. You do not count ships destroyed or territory taken. You measure something else entirely. What is that? You measure whether you stay true to who you are. Cathrell's voice changed, becoming stronger and more certain. I have commanded ships for 50 years. I have always fought carefully, preserving my forces, calculating acceptable losses. But today, I choose to fight like a human. His scales visible on the video screen turned the deep blue of absolute respect. The Velthari fleet will stand with you, Commander Monroe. We will not run. We will not abandon those colonies. And we will make the enemy pay for every ship they destroy. Lisa felt her eyes burn with tears she would not let fall. Not now, not yet. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Commander. Thank you for teaching us that sometimes. The only way to truly win is to be willing to lose everything. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The Allied fleet did not form defensive lines or try to protect themselves. Instead, they attacked. 75 ships charging into 300. Hitting the enemy formation like a hammer blow, the first hour was carnage. Ships exploded on both sides. Human destroyers rammed Kethver cruisers. Velthari frigates flew suicide runs against enemy command ships. Escape pods were launched and then ignored as surviving crew members chose to keep fighting. Lisa stood on the bridge of the SIB Perseverance as her ship took hit after hit. Around her, crew members died at their stations. Fires broke out and were ignored. The only thing that mattered was hurting the enemy. The Kethver had expected the alliance to break. They had expected the humans in Velthari to argue about tactics, to fall apart under pressure, to run when the casualties became too high. They were wrong. By the second hour, the Kethver had lost 80 ships. The alliance had lost 40. The numbers still favored the attackers, but not by as much as they had expected. And worse, for every Allied ship that died, it seemed to take 2 or 3 enemy ships with it. By the third hour, the Kethver commanders began to panic. This was not how battles were supposed to go. The enemy was supposed to retreat, to break, to run. Instead, they kept coming. Damaged ships that should have withdrawn kept fighting. Crews that had every reason to surrender chose to die instead. And behind the battle, the colonies were evacuating. Transports filled with 12 million people flew to safety while the Alliance fleet bought them time with blood and fire. The Perseverance finally died in the fourth. A direct hit to the reactor left the ship drifting and powerless. Lisa ordered her remaining crew to the escape pods while she stayed on the bridge. Trying to coax one last burst of weapons fire from the dying systems, she managed to destroy one more enemy ship before the Perseverance broke apart around her. Lisa woke up in a medical bay 3 days later. Admiral Cathrell sat beside her bed, his scales dull with exhaustion. "We won," he said simply. Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. How reinforcements arrived in the 5th hour. By then, the Kethver had lost 160 ships. Their fleet was already retreating. The Admiral's mouth parts clicked softly. They could not understand what they were fighting. They had never seen anything like it. Our losses. Kethver was quiet for a moment. 53 ships destroyed. 12,000 human and Velthari dead. But the colonies were evacuated completely. All 12 million people are safe. Lisa closed her eyes. 53 ships. 12,000 lives. It was a terrible cost, but it was also a victory unlike any the galaxy had seen before. The Cathvar have requested peace talks, Cathrall continued. Their government is in chaos. They cannot understand how we fought like that, how we kept coming even when we were losing, how we refused to quit. He leaned forward. Their intelligence reports about humans and Velthari were wrong in one critical way. They knew humans were willing to die for victory. They thought Velthari were too logical for such behavior. They did not know we had changed. Lisa opened her eyes and looked at the old admiral. You fought like humans. No, Cathrall said, and his scales turned the deepest blue she had ever seen. We fought like humans and Velthari together. We took your willingness to sacrifice and combined it with our discipline and precision. The result was something new, something that has never existed before. He made the respect gesture, bowing his head and spreading his forearms. You came to our school and taught us that humans are dangerous because they refuse to surrender. You were right, but you also taught us something more important. You taught us what it means to fight for something greater than survival. You taught us what it means to have a cause worth dying for. Lisa felt tears finally running down her face. I never meant for so many to die. No, but you showed us how to live. Cathrall's voice was soft but certain. Before we met humans, the Velthari existed. We conquered, we traded, we built our empire. But we did not truly live. We calculated everything. We measured every risk and reward. We were safe and careful and boring. His scales shifted through colors of emotion Lisa had never seen. Humans taught us to feel, to fight for friends, to die for strangers, to be more than just survivors. He paused. You taught us to be alive. Outside the medical bay window, stars drifted past. Somewhere out there, 12 million people were building new homes, safe because of what the Alliance had sacrificed. Somewhere out there, the Kethver were learning to fear an enemy they could not understand. And somewhere out there, humans and Velthari were becoming something greater than either species had been alone. Lisa, Monroe smiled through her tears. A year ago, she had stood in a classroom and warned the Velthari that humans were dangerous. She had explained that killing a human was easy, but surviving what came after was hard. She had been right about that. But she had been wrong about something else. She had thought she was teaching the Velthari to fear humans. Instead, she had taught them to love them, and in the end, that made all the difference.